Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I paint some trees with paint markers. And I'm using this sketchbook and a black sketchbook as well. And here's the first sketch. Boop, just did it. Didn't want to, I guess, take you through that process. So I'm doing an underpainting with this pink color. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with doing underpaintings with pink. I just really like the way it looks, and I like having something there before to show through and to have a little bit on the outlines as well. And then I used these Simp Tap markers. I'm sure other people have heard of them before from Artix that they had also sent me. They sent me a whole bunch of stuff at one point, so I was just using this, and they're quite nice. They had a nice tip. They're definitely different from the other ones. They definitely have a lot more paint in them, so that was cool. It just had the perfect color for the base of the tree that I wanted. So I had done this tree sketch a little while back, and I really wanted to paint it with the markers and see what I could do, and kind of like wanted the bark to be looking very barky and like gnarly. Of course, I wanted it to be at sunset. That's why I use this kind of goldeny brown. And then I'm just showing you here that I wanted to cast some shadows. You know how I love doing that. And of course, because it's at sunset, there's going to be a lot of shadows. So specifically, there's a branch coming out there, and I wanted to cast a shadow. You'll be able to see it a lot better just in a minute here. And I wanted it to be glowing from the inside as well, and just really focus on making the shadows, making it look warm and cozy inside the tree house stump, and kind of nice and warm atmosphere outside of it as well. So here I am using the darkest color I had, which was just about black. I think the color number is 98. And I was like, okay, let me just put the darkest color I have and make this shadow really dark. You know, I was thinking of Eyvind Earle. I've talked about all of that before, and I kind of regretted it, so I just sort of went over it a little bit with that purple color again and just kept the outlines of the black. So I didn't completely get rid of it, but I thought it was worth showing that I did that, just that I had that darkness underneath there where the shadows were, and I think that fixed it, and I like how it looked when I layered those two. So yeah. And then I decided just to highlight that piece of wood. Eventually at the end, I get it. It was kind of difficult because all of these colors are so like bright, and I'm not used to using paint markers. It's quite different from alcohol markers for sure. So then I did these windows, which I wanted it to fade, looking like maybe there's a fireplace inside. So I took my trusty water brush pen and I just blended in the windows there, kind of went back and forth with the orange and the yellow, and blended with water while the paint was still wet to make sure that it looked really blendy and nice. And I think that turned out super cool. Really liked that. And yeah, just kind of kept tossing around in my head. Do I want it to be pinkish? Do I want it to be purpley? And I kept feeling like I was going too heavy on the purple color, so I kept bringing back in that brown. And so I was kind of struggling a little bit with sort of how to do it. And I really liked the sketch, so I was stressing at this point because I was like, ooh, is this gonna turn out okay? It did. It was like fine in the end. It's not my most favorite one, but I think it was a really good practice, and I like it still looks good. Just what was in my brain, my imagination, isn't exactly what came out on the paper. But I still thought it was worth showing, mostly because I filmed it and I didn't want to not show it to you guys because it was filmed. Okay. Anyways, going on to the grass, I always like to take some coolish greens and put them on one side, the side where the sun is not shining or the light is not on, and where the shadows would be, and then the warmer greens on the side that the sun obviously is shining, and I usually put a bit of yellow in there as well. And then I got a little more brave with the shadows and laying those suckers down. And this Artix markers set in general, I had a hard time finding warm enough greens that I want. I really like olivey greens, like ochre, like that kind of color, and like really, really warm ones, like hunter's green and stuff like that. And there's not too much in that way, so I was a little bit like, didn't really know what to use. So I just did a mix of yellow and lighter greens and darker greens and just went very cool on the cool side to make them look warmer. That's how I used my brain to solve that problem. And then I took my trusty Muji pen as well and just kind of whatever lines was too tiny, whatever details were too tiny to get with the paint pens, then I would just use my Muji pen to bring those out. I like to make some little lines here and there, and I like to like accentuate things. So that's kind of what I was doing, just to separate stuff, because again, all the colors are so bright. So I wanted to separate them with the black of the pen, if that makes sense. And then I pulled off the tape, realized, it kind of looked weird, so I just put a couple more dots of the grass here and there just to, make it frame up nice. And yeah, signed it, dated it, and this is the first one. And I do have another one that I wanted to show you guys because I had also, guess what, filmed this one and just didn't want to like waste the footage. It was still, I thought, kind of a cool tree. So I thought, let's do a tree day. That's really what this is. So I went in with a kind of grayish color on this black paper, and I really liked the shape of this tree. And then I was just this was the first time actually working on this black paper, and I thought, the colors are really showing up a lot different than I expected because I hadn't ever done it on black before, and that color that I put on was one of the darkest colors that I had, that first shadowy color. So it was fun and interesting to learn about that. If I could do it again, I would just maybe use less warm colors and maybe more of a variation. But again, this was just kind of like a fun sketch, but it was just really, I went really yellow with the highlights, and I don't usually like to do that too much, but when you look at it all finished and all together, I think it looks pretty cool. And I just really like the color of the shadow. So like the first color that I had put down. And then I went, I guess, full blue for the grass for some reason. I think I was just having trouble with the black paper and cool and warm tones because they were showing up so differently than I thought they were going to. So that's why I got confused. I basically covered it up, but I left a little bit of the blue on the shadow side once again. So I think that looked okay. And so then I was pretty much done. And I hope you enjoyed watching this tree painting video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye!